Wherever we look, at every step we see tasks which humanity is fully capable of solving immediately. But capitalism doesn't allow this to happen. Capitalism created giant wealth and made people slaves of that wealth. It solved the most complex technological issues. We see the poverty and darkness of millions of people due to the greed of a handful of millionaires. The problems that surround modern society from all sides seem unsolvable, but in reality, there are no barriers to the power of the productive forces and accumulated human knowledge. Humanity can solve all global problems. It's capitalism that prevents this from happening. In this video, we will tell you about 5 reasons why capitalism should be destroyed and replaced by a more progressive formation. Capitalism keeps the life of the absolute majority of society in poverty, oppression, and hostility. A countless army of the unemployed people reduces the cost of labor power, and thereby increases the capitalist profit. Nearly 3 billion people on the planet survive on less than $2 a day, and about 1.5 billion live in extreme poverty. The 8 richest people on Earth have more wealth concentrated in their hands than 50% of the world's population. Rivalry between workers leads to the division of people into groups, and discrimination on all possible grounds. The exploited majority is branded as lazy and second-rate people. Moderate improvement in the lives of some workers under capitalism means an equivalent deterioration in the lives of others. The high living standards of the labor aristocracy and the petty bourgeoisie, especially in the countries of the capitalist center, is based on the super exploitation of the dependent countries, the economic and moral oppression of the workers of the dependent countries. This antisocial system can only be changed by destroying the desire for monetary profit, the basis for the growth and existence of capital. At the stage of imperialism, there is no place in the world left unaffected by market relations. The largest capitalist monopolies have settled on all continents in all countries of the world. Therefore, the redistribution of the market between imperialists becomes inevitable. The bourgeoisie pits the proletariat of different countries and regions against one another, immersing them in wars and disasters, further reducing the cost of social labor. War becomes the only opportunity for them to get the maximum profit, to avoid stagnation and crises of overproduction. War renews and revives capital through the systemic destruction of part of the means of production and labor force, as well as through the destruction of competing capitalist groups. Humanity has already survived 2 world wars unleashed for a sole purpose: to support the falling profit figures and preserve wealth in the hands of a small group of plutocrats. Many millions of workers were killed, the lives of others turned into absolute hell. For the sake of the same goal, the conditions for the existence of life were almost destroyed on our planet, thanks to weapons of mass destruction. 1 in 3 countries are currently at war. Right now, about 30 hotspots and wars are burning in the world, organized by capitalists or with their active support. The threat of another global redistribution and suicide of humanity in a global war is only a matter of time, and war itself will not disappear until capitalism is destroyed. Instead of ensuring the full personal development and free creative labor, the market forces the working majority to perform stupefied, mechanized labor that brings profits into the pockets of the private owners. Capitalism is a society of alienation, a society where a person is excluded from the results of his labor. As a result, a human in modern society is also alienated from cultural and political life. The corporate machine is thinking instead of you. The worker does not know why he produces the product, when all that he produces is appropriated by the exploiter. One loses interest in work. It ceases to be creative and it becomes a routine, a set of mechanical functions. Therefore, a person in a market society seeks to avoid labor. Alienated labor is punishment, and vice versa. The lack of labor, inactivity, and passive consumption becomes a blessing. An alienated person ceases to develop creatively and degrades. Capital supports this trend through primitive mass culture and commodity fetishism. Propaganda of a way of life in which private consumption of goods is in no way connected with their social production. The low quality of education and low-grade mass culture impede access to scientific and cultural knowledge. As a result, there is a general decline in cultural and educational levels. Scientific literacy, religious idealism, obscurantism, and pseudoscience flourish. All this does not happen according to some secret insidious conspiracies, but by the very nature of capitalist production. The low level of culture creates ideal consumers who are not able to think critically. The modern development of science and technology, the highest level of productive capacity which humanity has achieved, is able to create wonders. Millions of people are united by common labor in industrial complexes, scientific institutes, and agricultural enterprises. But the private nature of the appropriation of their common labor makes it impossible to use it rationally. Fulfilling the whims of private owners, talented workers, engineers, and scientists are forced to produce what the spontaneous conditions of the market require, not the real needs of the people. Such work is devoid of a planned, efficient organization because it's sharpened by the capitalist's short-term profit. Labor productivity, which is impeded by capitalist relations, has already reached a level whereby it's possible to provide all of humanity with the necessary benefits, at least with basic needs. But capital does not and cannot set such a task. Its goal is to multiply value. It has nothing to do with the life and prosperity of the majority of the people. On the contrary, capital supports universal decay, a lack of the most necessary things for its private growth. Goods that cannot be sold or destroyed in order to prevent the fall of the profitability of exchange. Technologies that undermine the profits of monopolists are bought up and sealed by the capitalists, so that these technologies cannot be used by rivals. The most important technical and scientific industries do not receive development due to their high risks and low profitability. Instead, the sphere of quickly profitable goods and services expands. What is vital for the whole society, business considers risky and unprofitable. The financial sector is inflated to an unbelievable size, serving the intermediary layers necessary to maintain the system of universal market exchange. Market society does not only hinder the development of the productive forces, it destroys the productive forces. It's possible to overcome its vices, to reach the heights of the development of science, technology, the national economy, only by destroying the basis of capitalist production, leading social labor to the social character of the consumption of its results. Capitalism is a society of exploitation. Its system rests on the unequal position of people, the right of one class to appropriate the labor of others, legitimized oppression. The essence of capitalist exploitation is simple. The capitalist hires an employee for a wage, paying the cost of his labor power. But in the production process, there's a new value added, which is more than the cost paid for hiring an employee. The difference between these two quantities is called surplus value. Using the right of private property, the capitalist appropriates the result of the worker's labor and makes a profit. As domestic resources are exhausted, capital moves to other places. It exports production abroad. Puppet governments in dependent countries support the imperialist machine of oppression at the legislative level. To facilitate the robbery of dependent countries, anti-ecological laws are adopted, the economy is liberalized, the rights of the workers and social guarantees are abolished. With the help of the deceptive investment schemes and imposed loans, monopoly capital appropriates the surplus value created in the so-called developing countries. The relations between the countries of the center and the countries of the periphery resemble the relations between the worker and the capitalist on a global scale. The periphery is forced to give everything that its working people can produce to work hard for the imperialist center. According to the Financial Times, about $940 billion a year flows only from the leading 19 developing economies to the imperialist nucleus. Humanity is increasingly losing its chance for a brighter future with every passing year that capitalism continues to exist. The preservation of the power of capital threatens us with a new irreversible catastrophe, but on a global scale. We are able to avoid this catastrophe only by establishing a more progressive socialist system. Various crises, market anarchy of production, social inequality, and ongoing wars will be eliminated only after the destruction of the capitalist system and the establishment of the dictatorship of the proletariat. Together with the defeat of capitalism and the systematic elimination of private property, not only the history of wage slavery will end, an entire era of exploitation of human by human lasting thousands of years, will be over. With the dominance of the exploiters being over, a new chapter of human civilization will begin.